Heartwarming moment, airline staff disrespect black woman discover her incredible response. Raquel rushed through Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, exhaustion tugging at her like a heavy blanket after a grueling 12-hour shift. Scrub still on, hair barely held back, she could feel the weight of 100 gazes as she maneuvered through the chaotic sea of travelers. It was one of those days where every touch felt almost electric, and the rush of voices faded into a dull roar around her. Little did she know, today's adventure would challenge everything she'd learned from the fierce spirit of her mother and the proud resilience of her father. She recalled her mother marching for equality, her voice ringing out in unison with others, standing tall against injustice. The lessons from those community gatherings echoed in her mind, dignity and strength. The thought anchored her, a gentle reminder that she had faced storms before. But the stage was set for an unexpected confrontation. As Raquel approached the check-in line, her heart sank when the airline staff exchanged glances and smirks. She could see judgment written across their faces, the casual dismissal, the thinly veiled contempt. "Excuse me," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. But before she could say anything more, a staff member snapped back, "Your ticket's not valid. You should really try to dress properly if you want to fly with us." Her chest tightened. The words stung not just because of their rudeness but because they cut deeper into the heart of her family's legacy. It was a blatant act of disrespect layered with unspoken bias. For a moment, the buzz of the airport faded into silence around her as Raquel took a deep, centering breath. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Raquel felt a fire ignite within her. It wasn't just about her now, it was for every person who felt judged for their appearance, every individual pushed aside because of assumptions. With a steadiness born from years of fighting through challenges, she stood tall. "This isn't just a matter of appearance," she declared, drawing in a crowd of curious travelers who instinctively leaned closer, their faces reflecting concern. "It's about respect. It's about recognizing the humanity in each of us." The tension in the air pulsed, and she continued, her voice growing stronger. "We all deserve dignity, regardless of how we look or where we come from. This isn't just an individual fight, it's a community fight. We need to do better." As her words filled the space, whispers rippled through the listeners. Faces lit with understanding, nodding in shared sympathy. An air of solidarity formed, drawing more eyes toward Raquel, their collective heartbeat rising in support. It was a watershed moment, one where indignation shifted into something greater, a call to action. And in that bustling airport, among tired travelers and excited families, a movement began. Raquel could feel the energy transforming her ordeal into a broader conversation. Would this be the spark to ignite real change within the industry? Would they listen now? As she looked into the sea of supportive faces, Raquel saw hope glimmering brightly against the odds ahead. How far would this rallying spirit push them? The path forward remained shadowy and uncertain, yet her heart fluttered with possibility, ready to face whatever came next. Raquel stood there, the thrumming energy of her words hanging in the air like a new dawn breaking. Travelers exchanged glances, some whispering encouragement, others shaking their heads in disbelief at the blatant discrimination. Raquel could feel their eyes upon her, not with judgment, but with understanding. They were with her, a growing multitude ready to rally against injustice. In that moment, she realized she wasn't just speaking for herself, she was a voice for those who had been silenced, overlooked, and underestimated. It was as if the airport had transformed into a stage for her to share her truth, and she intended to use it. "We can't keep allowing this to happen," she pressed on, her voice unwavering. "I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm demanding equal respect." The airline staff began to melt into the background, their authority faltering before the collective will of the crowd. Raquel noticed a woman in chic attire nodding vigorously, her hand gripping the arm of a nearby friend. A man with tired eyes and a worn suitcase cleared his throat and added, "You're right. We deserve better service, not prejudice." A ripple of agreement surged through the crowd, like an electric wave powered by shared grievances. People began stepping forward to voice their own experiences, stories of discrimination, times they had been judged for their clothes, race, or circumstances. Raquel's pulse quickened. Each story shared added fuel to the fire ignited within her. As voices mingled in passionate solidarity, the mood shifted from outrage to determination. Someone shouted, "Let us band together. If we speak up, they have to listen." Raquel felt a surge of hope. This wasn't just about a single flight, it was about a movement she hadn't anticipated. In faces she met, she glimpsed shared stories that mirrored her own struggles, the struggle for respect, for humanity. Would this be the start of something significant? But amidst the excitement, a shadow loomed, the grim reality that not everyone would support their cause. Raquel looked back toward the airline representatives, their expressions shifting from smugness to unease. Who was going to take action? Would there be consequences for standing up? The thought lingered uneasily in her heart, but she pushed through it. "If we unite, change can happen," she affirmed, steeling herself. "This isn't just about flight rules. This is about holding those in power accountable. Together, we can demand they adopt policies that reflect our values." As she spoke, some individuals stepped closer to add their voices to hers while others pulled out their phones, capturing the scene. Raquel felt a rush of vulnerability but also a fierce pride as their numbers swelled, each word knitting them into a community eager for change, yet, in the back of her mind, a question remained: what would happen next? How would the airline respond to this unexpected uprising? Raquel could feel a storm brewing, one that might lead to both conflict and breakthrough. As the tension thickened and the murmur of support grew louder, the weight of the unknown pressed in. Raquel thought of her family's fight for equality and how thankful she was to be surrounded by kindred spirits. But she also felt the tremor of fear tinged with hope. What would they choose to do next? Would this be the torch that ignited a broader movement or merely a fleeting moment? And when the dust settled, how would they measure their success? Would they walk away with the dignity they all deserved? With her heart pounding, she took a deep breath, ready for whatever was coming next. Raquel held her breath, feeling the weight of anticipation in the air. Just as the crowd reached its peak, a uniformed figure stepped forward from the fringes of the airline staff, cutting through the sea of voices like a knife. It was a tall man, his expression riddled with tension. Raquel recognized him from earlier. He was the one who had first dismissed her complaint. "Enough!" he bellowed, his voice booming across the terminal, silencing the gathered travelers. The collective focus shifted like the clinking of coins in a well. Raquel squared her shoulders, her heart racing as she prepared for confrontation. "You know the company policy," he continued, a hint of irritation lacing his words. "Disruptions won't be tolerated. You need to let our representatives handle this." But Raquel wasn't done. "No," she called out, her voice breaking through his authority. "You've been handling it and look where that has led us. It's time for us to handle this ourselves." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, affirming her words. The man's brow furrowed, his confidence slipping. "This is a public area, but I'm warning you, warning us," shouted a weary-looking mother cradling her child. "Have you ever felt the weight of that word? We are tired of warnings. We're asking for respect." The man shifted uncomfortably, as if the ground beneath him had suddenly grown unstable. Raquel felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through her. They weren't just voices now, they were a chorus, harmonizing pain, anger, and resilience. As if fueled by the vibrant energy surrounding her, Raquel took a bold step forward. "We're not here to create chaos. We're here for humanity. We demand to be acknowledged." With every word, she could feel the collective heartbeat of the crowd synchronizing with her own, each pulse sending waves of affirmation, from the left, a young man with bright green sneakers joined in, his voice a beacon of determination. "We're not just flying from city to city. We're people. And every single person deserves to travel without fear of discrimination." Cheers erupted, shouts of encouragement filling the terminal once more. The scene felt electric, as if each individual was a conduit of courage, striking against the indifference that had been thrust upon them. The airline representative appeared trapped, glancing nervously to his colleagues, who hovered off to the side, unsure of how to regain control of the situation. Raquel could see their doubt, even as they stood in their uniforms, armor-like against the swirl of indignation. "What we want," Raquel pressed on, her voice stronger, "is a commitment to change. We want assurances that your company will take us seriously." With those words came a wave of realization. The urgency of their demands was only amplifying as the crowd rallied to support her, but just then, a new voice emerged, smooth yet dripping with condescension. "Is this really how you want to make your point? Such theatrics won't win anyone over." A woman in a sharp suit had stepped up, a smirk dancing on her lips as she eyed the gathering. Raquel could feel her pulse quicken again, a mix of fear and fury simmering beneath the surface. Who was she to diminish their struggle? Ignoring the woman's tone, Raquel responded, "This isn't a performance. This is our life. We will be heard." The atmosphere shifted once more, teetering dangerously between solidarity and tension. Raquel sensed both opportunity and danger, a possibility for change but also the threat of rebuke from the airline. How would they navigate this facade of authority? Would they stand strong, or was there a precipice ahead, threatening to plunge them back into silence? The uncertainty loomed, but Raquel stood tall, her heart resolute. This could be their moment. What would she need to do next to ensure their voices were no longer stifled? The answer hung in the balance, waiting for her to seize it. Raquel could feel the tension rising, a prickly heat coursing through her. She glanced around at the crowd, a sea of faces turned towards her, eyes bright with hope and resolve. This was her moment, and she couldn't falter now. The suited woman in front of her crossed her arms, a practiced smile plastered on her face. "You think shouting will make a difference? This is a company, not a playground." Her words sliced through the air, but Raquel didn't flinch. "You're right," Raquel shot back, her voice steady and unwavering. "This isn't a game to us. We're not here for entertainment. We demand respect, and respect means listening to our pain." The crowd erupted again, this time with passionate agreement. Their voices were a roaring wave, crashing against the foundations that tried to keep them silent. Raquel felt a surge in her chest, a fierce warmth spreading through her heart, as she realized the collective strength they had summoned together. "Every person in this terminal has a story," she continued, passion fueling her every word. "Every one of us is more than just a ticket or a number. We are human beings. Families waiting for loved ones. Friends embarking on new adventures. We owe it to ourselves to be heard." A father stepped up from the back, striding confidently to stand beside her, his young daughter clutching his hand. "We travel for joy, for sorrow, for hope. When did our lives become less important than your rules?" His voice rang out, sincere and raw, and Raquel felt the air thick with emotion. The airline staff were visibly shaken. Glancing at each other, they appeared to be debating their next move. The tall man who had started it all now stood a little more rigid, as if he was battling inner demons. The smirking woman, however, seemed unfazed and tried to return to her scripted authority. "This scene isn't helping anyone. You need to disperse and disperse." Raquel interrupted, her voice rising above the gathering storm of reactions. "Why would we do that? We finally have a chance to confront an injustice that has been ignored for too long. We're not leaving until we get answers. Until we can feel safe. Until we are treated like the human beings we are." The crowd surged forward. Raquel could feel their energy rallying, an invisible thread pulling them all tighter together. The desire for change was palpable. With each heartbeat, it reverberated in the air like music. Just then, a voice called from the edge of the crowd, soft yet commanding. I have a right to speak too. An elderly woman, her skin deeply lined with age and wisdom, stepped forward. My daughter faced discrimination years ago on a flight. It hurt us then, and it still hurts. I refuse to let it continue. Her resolve ignited a new wave of cheers. Raquel felt tears welling in her eyes. This was a moment of pure humanity, a realization that they were fighting for something greater than just themselves. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could change this airline's narrative, change the language of indifference to one of compassion. The airline representatives exchanged urgent whispers, their facade cracking. Raquel couldn't help but wonder if this unique moment was taking them closer to a true breakthrough or if they would be met with further resistance. But she knew they had each other. She shuffled the raucous crowd, swallowing the fear that threatened to choke her. Together, we can write a new story. One where our voices matter, where our fight for dignity doesn't fall on deaf ears. An electric silence momentarily overtook the throng before the cheers erupted again, wild and hungry. Raquel didn't know what would happen next, but she felt an undeniable strength growing in her. They were in the middle of something significant, something that might become a turning point in broader struggles, but the question gnawed at her: what if this was all just noise to them? Would they turn their backs, yet again? Or would they choose to engage, to listen, and to commit to change? As that thought hung in the air, Raquel braced herself. The stakes were higher than ever. She was determined to fight for every single person around her. She just hoped they wouldn't have to wait much longer for their voices to be acknowledged. The tension swirled around Raquel, and she could feel it in her bones. The crowd was electric, a living entity buzzing with urgency. Voices melded together, creating a chorus of desperation and hope. She took a deep breath, letting the shared energy embolden her. "Look at all of us!" Raquel exclaimed, gesturing to the diverse crowd. Diversity isn't just a term, it's who we are. Each one of us brings a story, a different perspective shaped by our backgrounds. We're not asking for special treatment, we're demanding basic respect. A wave of agreement rippled through the crowd again, and Raquel could see newcomers stepping forward, hesitant but willing to stand in solidarity. Each face wore a mix of resolve and fear, yet behind the wariness was a spark, a shared yearning for something better. In that moment, she caught sight of a young man holding a sign that read, "Enough is enough." It struck her like a lightning bolt. These weren't just random travelers, they were a community, united by a shared goal, and not just any community but one rich in stories and experiences. An intense silence fell, making the moment feel even heavier. Then, a woman with tears glistening in her eyes stepped forward next to Raquel. "My sister was humiliated last month when her flight was delayed. No explanation, no empathy. Just silence," she said, her voice trembling. "We won't be silent any longer." The crowd erupted again, rallying around her words, an unstoppable wave crashing against the callousness that had held them captive for too long. The airline representatives' expressions shifted from disdain to concern, the weight of the crowd's collective voice settling heavily on their shoulders. Raquel watched the woman in the suit. The rigid lines of her face softened just slightly as she began to comprehend they wouldn't just go away. Stepping closer to the front, Raquel raised her hand, and the crowd instinctively quieted. "We're here for compassion. We're here for understanding. We want to meet you halfway." Her voice ringed with fervor. "All it takes is a step forward to acknowledge our pain. So we ask you, what will you do next?" The question hung in the air, charged with emotion and anticipation. Raquel's heart raced. It felt like they were standing on the edge of something monumental. Suddenly, the tall man who had been so rigid stepped forward, taking a deep breath as though preparing to dive into deep waters. "We hear you," he began, his voice shaky yet sincere. We realize the importance of listening. We will meet with a representative who can truly address your concerns." Raquel's heart soared, but doubt flickered within. Would they really follow through? The crowd erupted again, a mixture of cautious optimism and exuberant relief. Hands clasped and hugs were exchanged. There was a sense of unity that felt fragile yet powerful, and Raquel knew they had crossed a crucial threshold. But just then, an unexpected sound, a shattering crash rang through the terminal, startling everyone. A nearby display case had fallen, glass scattering everywhere. Murmurs transformed into gasps as confusion swept across the crowd. Raquel turned towards the source, urgency thrumming in her chest. "Stay calm. Stay together," she shouted, her voice steadying the rising fear, even as her own heart raced. What did this mean? Was it a mere accident, or was it a prelude to something more ominous? As the crowd moved in collective concern, Raquel couldn't shake the feeling that their moment of triumph may be hanging by a thread. Was change truly within their grasp, or was it just another illusion on the horizon? With hope swirling in her heart, she steadied herself, taking a step forward into the unknown. What lay ahead, she had no way of knowing, but she wouldn't back down. This fight was just beginning, and she was ready for whatever was thrown their way next. The sound of crumbling glass cut through the air like a knife. It broke the bond that had just been forged between voices of passion and representatives who seemed to finally be listening. Raquel could feel the collective breath of fear that swept through the crowd, the air thickening with anxiety. She glanced back at the airline representatives, their faces now a mix of concern and panic. The tall man who had spoken moments before looked utterly bewildered, shifting uncomfortably as if the shards of glass on the floor reflected the fragile promises made. "Is everyone okay?" Raquel called out, scanning the crowd for signs of distress. Her heart thundered in her chest. "Please, stay together. Let the staff clear the area." A murmur echoed back, mixed feelings tearing at the resolve that had just blossomed. She could sense the doubt creeping in, like shadows creeping in at dusk. Just when they felt like they had made a real breakthrough, now this? Would they retreat into a cycle of silence again? Suddenly, the woman who had stepped forward earlier, the one with tears streaming down her face, shouted back. "We will not be silenced. Not by this. Not by anyone." Her defiance struck a chord, and Raquel felt a fresh wave of determination rolling through her. Raquel nodded at the woman, heart swelling with gratitude. "That's right. This is part of our story too. Sometimes change comes with noise, with chaos. Together, we can shape this moment into something powerful." A loud "yes" rose from the crowd, clapping and stomping feet as the tension transformed. Fear was overshadowed by sparks of defiance. Raquel felt the energy shift as people folded their arms, taking a stand not just for themselves but for everyone who felt marginalized and disrespected. As the airline staff began to regroup, a few brave souls stepped forward, picking up the shards of glass while keeping a watchful eye on the crowd. It wasn't just about apologies anymore, it was about action, accountability. The shift was palpable. With each piece of glass lifted, a barrier broke down. Raquel smirked at the sight, emotions welling in her chest as she marveled at the strength and unity displayed before her. Look at what we can achieve together. This isn't just about one incident, it's about respect. It's about ensuring that no one else feels the way many of us do today. Amid claps and cheers, Raquel caught sight of the tall man again. He was observing the crowd with newfound seriousness. The cracks in his rigid facade were deepening. Was the moment of truth finally arriving for him as well? Let us not let this moment slip away. Raquel declared, excitement surging. We may face barriers today, but they will not stop us. We are not just a crowd, we are a community. The crowd erupted in applause, echoing her words like a battle cry. Raquel's heart raced again with renewed hope. Now, more than ever, they were a force to be reckoned with. As she took a deep breath, scanning their resolve, the tall man stepped forward once again, glancing back at his fellow representatives. We understand this isn't just about one person or one situation, it's about change, he began, hesitation still creeping in, but just as Raquel leaned in, eager to hear more, a new voice bellowed through the terminal. This isn't over yet. We need a time for real dialogue, right here and now. Who had the courage to stand up now? Raquel's heart skipped. What was about to unfold before them? Raquel's gaze shifted to the source of the bold declaration. A wiry man with bright eyes and a fierce expression stood at the front, fists clenched, as if daring anyone to challenge him. His courage resonated through the crowd, igniting a spark of anticipation. Who are you? The tall airline representative asked, his voice shaky but assertive. The man didn't flinch, instead, he stepped closer. I'm Robert, he proclaimed. And I'm here to demand answers. We deserve a forum where our voices are heard, not just another half-hearted apology. The crowd stirred, a cautious thrill rippling through them. Raquel's heart swelled with admiration for Robert's boldness. This was the moment, the opening they needed to solidify their newfound unity. She stepped forward, laughter bubbling up as she shouted, "Yes, Robert. Let us rally together. Who else wants to share their story?" A chorus of hands shot up, eager expressions replacing the fear that had hovered moments before. People began to voice their experiences, each tale woven tightly with threads of hurt, neglect, and resilience. A young woman spoke of being racially profiled at the check-in desk, her voice trembling but resolute. An older gentleman shared how he was treated differently than his white peers when complaints arose. As they shared, Raquel felt an overwhelming sense of weight lifting from her own shoulders. Each story painted a picture of the injustices they endured, yet together they formed a tapestry of strength. It's time for these stories to be seen and validated, she exclaimed. These are not just complaints, they are cries for respect. The tall man squirmed. Raquel could tell he was processing the gravity of the moment. This wasn't just a presentation of grievances, it was a reckoning. She watched as the collective passion enveloped the representatives in the same way it had gathered around her, all hearts now vulnerable and raw. Suddenly, a woman in the back cried out, "We need more than just apologies. We need action plans that ensure real change." The crowd erupted in agreement, their voices blending into a harmonious roar. The tall man cleared his throat. "I understand this is difficult for you." But before he could finish, Robert interjected again. "Difficult? You think it's difficult for you? You've had a job, your voice has been heard, while we fight for ours." For a split second, silence fell like a heavy curtain, transforming the terminal into an arena of confrontations. Raquel could almost see the wheels turning in the tall man's mind as he searched for a response. "Let us not make this a battle," he finally responded, his tone softening. "I want to listen. But how do we take this forward? How can we ensure this is not just noise?" Robert, a smile breaking through the tension, turned to the people around him. "We need commitment to real change. We are ready to partner with you, but we need to see your sincerity." Raquel felt a spark of hope igniting within her. If they could engineer this plan, bring together ideas and solutions, perhaps they could actually create lasting change. Maybe this moment was their beginning, not just an isolated incident. "Let us draft those ideas together," she called out, enthusiasm blooming. "We can create a platform, a community board. Let us make our voices part of the solution." The crowd erupted into applause again, but Raquel felt a flicker of worry. Would the tall man and his colleagues encourage their plans, or would they find ways to dismiss them? In that charged atmosphere of excitement and uncertainty, Raquel locked eyes with Robert, who mirrored her hope but also her concern. "We need to ensure they stand firm, that it's not just conversation." As they gathered around, forming a circle of collaboration, Raquel's chest tightened. What if this was their chance? What if they could influence more than just the airline? "Will they take us seriously?" she whispered to herself. But then her mind drifted to the possibilities. The future felt like a shimmering horizon, a place full of hope. And just as she allowed herself to go there, a voice from the back pierced through the expectant air. What happens when the crowd fades and the promises are forgotten? Raquel turned, startled. What new challenge was about to unfold before them? The air in the terminal turned dense with tension as the voice echoed through the space. Mixed emotions swept across the crowd. Raquel saw heads nodding in agreement, while some wore expressions of skepticism, their hope flickering in the face of hard-earned reality. The woman who had spoken up stepped forward. Her name was Tanya, and Raquel noticed the tremor in her fists. "It's great to talk about change," she continued, a fire kindling in her eyes, "but how often have we seen these moments fizzle out? The loud voices quieting down once the cameras leave. Every time we've demanded respect, it hasn't led to anything substantial." Raquel's heart sank but also raced at Tanya's honesty. It felt like a dare, the kind that required courage. Could they really do something meaningful? Fear washed over her as doubts began to surface. She caught Robert's gaze again and saw the determination still burning there, and suddenly she felt her own resolve solidify. "We won't let it fade," Raquel shouted out, her voice sharper now, cutting through the uncertainty. "That's precisely why we're all here. We can start a movement and keep it growing." A ripple of encouragement spread through the crowd. "We must hold ourselves accountable too," Robert added. "It's not just about demanding change from them, it's about us taking actionable steps to ensure that change is part of our everyday interactions." Raquel felt transmissions of energy pass among the supporters. She could see Tanya nodding, the fire in her eyes warming into determination. "We should create a timeline," Tanya suggested, her voice now ringing with strength. "Let us set milestones for ourselves for when we'll meet and discuss our momentum," and how the tall airline representative interjected, a hint of nervousness in his demeanor. "I think we can help facilitate some of that, maybe schedule a regular check-in or a public forum." Raquel felt bursts of excitement blooming within her. "Yes. But we want it documented," she insisted, her heart thundering with the thought of their work being visible. "If they're serious, they'll record our progress. Can you commit to that?" The representative opened his mouth, then closed it, looking at his colleagues for affirmation. Raquel held her breath. When he finally nodded, a cheer erupted among the gathered crowd. That celebratory noise wasn't just for him, but rather for their collective voice, a chorus of pain transformed into powerful resolve. Yet, as applause resounded, Raquel's stomach tightened with doubt. There was still so much that could go wrong. What would happen when meetings turned into endless discussions with no definitive actions? Would the representative keep his promise? But the thrill of unity swelled around her. "Let us gather our ideas tonight," she proposed, feeling the warmth of connection among those around her. "Who wants to stay and brainstorm? Let us get our dreams on paper." Hands shot up, fueled by fervor. Raquel looked around, her heart swelling at the power of their collective spirit. People smiled, sharing laughter like it was a light illuminating the darkest corners of doubt. As they began to form smaller groups, she felt a lightness rising in her chest. Together, they could be a force for change. Just as they settled into their brainstorming, Raquel's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and found a message. Another incident was reported this time, a confrontation involving an airline staff member and a black woman at a different airport. Anger roiled within her, cutting through the moment's euphoria. "What's wrong?" Robert asked, noticing her expression. Raquel bit her lip, torn between the sadness she felt for another injustice and the hope they had generated. "We've barely begun, and it's still happening elsewhere," she replied, her heart heavy. "I need to act. We need to act." Her determination solidified like steel in her chest. "This can't stop. Not now." But as she looked at the group in front of her, she wondered, could they sustain this energy for longer than a fleeting moment? Would their initial strength hold up against the inevitability of setbacks? Just then, a new voice chimed in the back, uncertain yet earnest. "What if there's pushback? What if they fight us?" Raquel felt her blood run cold. The road ahead seemed riddled with obstacles. How do you face an enemy when you don't yet know its true form? Raquel's heart raced, pulse quickening with anxiety. Questions spiraled in her mind as she surveyed the crowd, uncertainty mingling with renewed determination. She had never expected to be here, leading groups, sparking change. "Pushback is expected," Robert said, breaking the silence left by the worried voice. "But that's exactly why we need to be prepared. We have to be strong." The room quieted as everyone contemplated what he had said. Raquel felt a wave of unity, but also fear. What would it mean to stand tall if they faced resistance? Tanya raised her hand. "What if we establish a code of conduct?" The suggestion collided with Raquel's thoughts. It was practical, but weighed heavily with the thought of how they would enforce it. If we're going to be in the public eye, we should define how we'll respond to negativity. We need to be united. Raquel's mind started racing again. What if we put together a handbook of strategies for handling difficult conversations and scenarios? She looked around, eager to gauge their reactions. Excitement crackled in the air. "Yes!" Someone shouted from the back, their enthusiasm infectious. "We can also share our personal experiences and what worked for us. We have to learn from one another." Just then, someone chimed in with an idea that sparked Raquel's hope even brighter. "How about we create a community support network? A way to connect when these incidents happen. We could even have a hotline or a website." Tanya's face illuminated with pride. "Exactly. We're building a web of safety and awareness with every step. I know I'm not alone when my voice is weak." People grabbed paper, jotting down ideas. Raquel watched as they sparked off one another like fireworks. It was exhilarating, watching every thought blossom into something greater. Fueled by the activism building around them, potential flourished in waves. Then, with gusto, a younger participant shouted, "And we need to amplify our messages on social media. Imagine if everyone shared our initiatives, a hashtag, a rallying cry, the world needs to hear us." "I love it." Raquel couldn't help but smile at the enthusiasm. She could feel her spirit lifting, the collective strength binding hearts together like an unbreakable rope. "We need to rally our friends, families, everyone we can before it's too late." The brainstorming surged ahead. Just as Raquel thought they were building momentum, her phone buzzed again, pulling her focus back to reality. This time it was an alert indicating the meeting was covered by local news. The urgency of their situation loomed large, like a weight pressing down on their shoulders. "Guys, we may need to be ready for questions from the media, especially if we stand up against injustices." Her words hung heavy in the air. "What if they come asking us to comment about the pushback? Can we have a unified message?" Nervous murmurs bubbled up. Faces turned, uncertainty weaving through the optimism that had just flourished. "Let us not shy away from it," Tanya said firmly, her eyes blazing with conviction. "This is our chance. We need to let our voices be heard." They could feel it, the heartbeat of something powerful rising up from the ground. But fear lingered like a shadow. Raquel's gut twisted. Would their strength withstand the scrutiny? As discussions veered towards planning their outreach, Raquel couldn't shake the weight of doubt. What if their voices weren't heard? What if the pushback wasn't just a challenge, but a battle they couldn't win? A distant siren echoed just outside the terminal, a sobering reminder that change often came with a cost. Was their fight worth it? Just then, a young man stepped forward. "Listen, I know it's scary, but remember, together, we create the change. Let us not forget our reason for being here." Raquel's heart swelled with emotion at his words. They faced the dawn of their initiative yet again, but were they ready for the storms ahead? As they pledged their unity, an uneasy silence settled over the group. They were a force, navigating uncharted waters together, but was it enough? Raquel held on to hope while knowing what they might face. And just then, a thought hit her: was the change they sought truly what the world was ready to embrace? The tension in the air could be sliced with a knife. Raquel felt every heartbeat of her own pulse echoing in her ears. They were on the edge of something, maybe even a revolution, but the fear of failure loomed like a thundercloud above them. She glanced at Robert, Tanya, and the rest of the crowd, their eyes filled with a mixture of anxiety and determination. "Are we ready?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, yet it resonated through the group. There was a moment of silence, everyone weighing the gravity of the situation. Then Tanya stepped forward, her chin lifted with conviction. "We've been silenced for too long. This is our chance to shout. Let us make sure they hear us." The crowd erupted with an energy that shook the terminal. Raquel's heart soared. They were ready. They needed to harness this momentum, this incredible force that had already started to reshape their narrative. "Let us come together and draft our demands right now," Raquel called, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She felt the power of unity resonate in the air, like a chorus rising to the challenge. "I want each of you to shout what matters most to you. Let us make this our mission." People stepped up, one after another. "Injustice must not be tolerated," shouted a woman with fierce determination. "Diversity and respect must be at the core of their policies." A man insisted, fists raised high. "We need ongoing training for the staff," chimed another voice, and soon suggestions flowed like a vibrant river, each one echoing their shared values. Raquel began to jot down their ideas, feeling the urgency ignite. "This is it. We're crafting a manifesto. A declaration that serves as a reminder they are responsible not just to us, but to everyone who has ever faced discrimination. We need them to understand that change is non-negotiable." The collective cheers around her gave her strength. For every voice that added to the chorus, another layer of conviction formed. Each shout blended together, creating a magnificent tapestry woven with threads of vulnerability and raw emotion. A media team approached, cameras poised and ready, giving Raquel a jolt of newfound pressure. She locked eyes with Robert, they both understood the stakes. "Keep your heads high," she declared. "Share your truth, your resolve." As she stepped forward to face the camera, her voice rang clear. "We're here today to stand against discrimination. We're a community that refuses to be silenced. We demand acknowledgement, respect, and change. We deserve better service and accountability in our travels." The murmur of approval surged through the gathered crowd, resonating with an echo of excitement. She stepped back, allowing others to speak, and every voice amplified their call for justice. Finally, the tall airline representative stood up, visibly shaken but resolved. "We recognize that we've failed you. We see that change must happen, and we're committed to ensuring this conversation continues not just today, but moving forward." Relief washed over Raquel like a wave. They had been heard. The journey they had started was indeed one that promised genuine transformation. The atmosphere relaxed as the crowd erupted into cheers once more, a celebratory culmination of all their efforts and resilience. Tears brimmed in Raquel's eyes, this was the moment her mother would have been proud of. Together, they had pushed through barriers, fueled by hope and passion, but Raquel knew the work was far from over. This was just the beginning. As the radiator buzzed with the warm glow of unity, she gathered the people around her, the room alive with a renewed promise. "Let us not stop at just one moment. We need to keep this momentum flowing. We need strategies, ways to ensure our voices continue to echo beyond these walls. Together, we can create something lasting." Cheers rang out again, a pulse of determination echoing in the air. Raquel felt a sense of purpose settle over her that was as warm as sunlight. They were ready, each heart beat in unison with courage and clarity. They would not fade into silence. They would be the change. As she envisioned the road ahead, Raquel felt emboldened, her heart racing with excitement. They were poised to create ripples that would spread far and wide, that could change not just this unfortunate airline incident but every corner of the industry. They had come together as a community. And they would keep standing together, because anyone who understood the power of love, respect, and resilience could truly change the world. This was their moment, this was their fight for dignity. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans, this is how you can support our channel.